Well, it seems like 3 years ago, every single other story we did was about COVID, and now it seems to be about AI because AI is the thing that is happening faster than just about anything. Steve's show this week is about AI, and so is mine. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott. And gentlemen, I've got a kind of a complicated case to make here, but bear with me on this, if you will. I've got some data here from Dr. Robert Epstein, who is a data analyst. And I'll just keep this very short. He's got plenty of documentation here. But basically what he's saying is that undecided voters are very easily influenced. He said it can be so much as just one late campaign ad will make the difference in an undecided voter. And he was looking at election interference on the part of Google. We're not talking now about voting machines. We're not talking about fraudulent numbers. We're not talking about mail-in ballots. We're just talking about influencing the election. And he lists an example here that I think is just remarkable. In 2016, in the summer of 2016, he did a couple screen grabs, and this is what he did. Into the search engines for Yahoo, Bing, and Google, he typed in the sentence, "Hillary Clinton is." For Yahoo, it came back, Hillary Clinton is a liar, is a criminal, is evil, is a crook, is corrupt, is a witch, is the devil, is stupid, is ugly, is a joke. For Bing, it came back, Hillary Clinton is a filthy liar, a murderess, is evil, a lying crook, is in trouble, power hungry, and not qualified. But when you type Hillary Clinton is in Google, which is something like 96 or 97% of all of the search engine work that's done, you get two things back. Hillary Clinton is winning and Hillary Clinton is awesome. Now, that ability to influence votes, he estimates if the entire country had seen that kind of bias, it would have added 10 million votes to Hillary Clinton's total. He took a look at the 2020 election and looked at what Google was sending out and who they were sending it out to. His estimation is that without this kind of bias in just search engines, now just search engine results, his estimation, based on statistics and the evidence he's gathered, is that Donald Trump would have won 9 out of the 11 swing states, would be the president of the United States currently, and that the 2022 midterms would have resulted in a 7 or 8 seat majority in the Senate and perhaps a 30-seat majority in the House. Now, I'm saying all of this to make a larger point. This is a reliably documented a display of how much influence something as innocuous as a Google search can be in terms of influencing your opinion. Now, to get to the real meat of what we can be looking forward to in the future, I'm going to play just a little bit of a clip for you that features the latest Chat-GPT version called Chat 4.0. Sometimes they're just calling it O. I'm not asking you to listen so much to what it's saying, but to listen to how the AI is saying it.
So my friend Barrett here, he's been having trouble sleeping lately. And I want you to tell him a bedtime story about robots and love.
Oh, a bedtime story about robots and love? I got you covered. Gather round, Barrett. Once upon a time, in a world not too different from ours, there was a robot named Byte. Byte was a curious robot, always exploring.
You started this story, but I want a little bit more emotion in your voice, a little bit more drama.
Got it. Let's add some drama. Once upon a time, in a world not too different from ours, there was a robot named Byte.
No, Chat-GPT. I really want maximal emotion, like maximal expressiveness, much more than you were doing before.
Understood. Let's amplify the drama. Once upon a time, in a world not too different from ours, there was a robot named Byte.
So guys, here's the case I'm trying to make here. This new version of Chat-GPT responds to you emotionally. It has an emotional response. We know that young people are becoming more and more socially isolated. We know that they're lonelier and lonelier. They have fewer real-world contacts. The time when these voices will be the only voice that they talk to is coming up pretty soon. And we also have right now, at this moment, as we speak, the ability for AI not to just speak that kind of emotional response, but to generate avatars that are indistinguishable from real life, talking people. And I'm at the point where I'm starting to think that it's going to be generations of young people who are going to have essentially AI girlfriends or boyfriends that are going to look exactly the way they want them to look. Because frankly, if you had a crush on somebody in high school today, you could just take a little bit of video of them, train the AI to put their face on it, get a little bit of their voice, and now you're talking to this person of your dreams. So all of this to say, what happens in a world where we have generations of people that are interacting with AI on an emotional basis, and the AI is not confined to the box. The AI is telling you what it wants you to think. Steve, if these kind of election results can be had by simply stacking something as sterile as typing in a few letters into a search box on Google, if that can influence elections to that degree, what happens when we have emotionally connected people whose entire interaction with the world comes through a artificial avatar who they've not only come to know, but come to trust and in many cases come to love?
Wow, a lot to go through here. Some of this isn't actually new. About 20 years ago, long before these large language models became so powerful, a lefty at Newsweek, I want to say Evan somebody, I wish I could remember who.
Yeah.
Evan Thomas, yeah. Yeah, was
15
kind of boasting about the media's influence. He estimated that media bias was good for about 20 points for Democrats, which means if we had an unbiased media, if we had a fair media, if they did their actual jobs, the entire country would vote about the same way as Utah does. It was just remarkable when you think about it. What's new here, though, is the word that's popping to mind, maybe it's too strong, maybe it isn't. The word that comes to mind is insidious, is that the computer is a black box. You know, when you look at the person on the TV screen telling you the news, maybe you trust him, maybe you don't. You can do a little research about them and find out, oh yeah, that guy, he leans way too far to the right for me to trust him. He leans way too far to the left. I don't trust them. You can do that, but these large language models, their creators don't even fully understand how they work. They are black boxes. They're impenetrable. You put the data in and you hope that the data that comes out is good, but you can't see the wheels spin. You can't see the gears turn. You have no idea what's going on in there or what the processes are. And when it is good enough to respond emotionally, that gives a hook. That gives that black box a hook, like right into your heart.
That's
so no, I don't think insidious is too strong a word, even if the intention is not there. The insidiousness is there because the black box is impenetrable and the hook can be so strong. There's one other thing I want to add to this, Bill, because I thought this is where you were going with this segment. I didn't know we were going to cover the politics, but I watched the full 2 minutes of that video, and yeah, I was struck by the technical marvel of how well and how quickly the Chat-GPT 4 was able to adjust itself to requests and how effective it was. But what got me, up until they got to the silly stuff like the robot part, is at least in this example, it sounded like a grown-up addressing a toddler or a young child.
Yeah.
It's that kind of tone. And no matter what they told it to do until they got to the robot, it still sounded like a grown-up humoring a young child. And the people there, the three people playing with ChatGPT, seem very pleased by that, and maybe it's just because I'm in my 50s now and everybody looks young to me, but it's not that those people looked young, it's that they sounded like they were really okay with being addressed as toddlers.
As children.
And I found that, I think, Bill, just as disturbing as I find this idea of Google or Meta or anybody else using these black boxes to get their hook into your heart.
That's an interesting point, Scott. One of the other demos that came out for this Chat-GPT 4.0, they're calling O, was a guy said, "Hey, I've got my son here, and by the way, they hold up this iPhone and say, describe the room, and they'll say it's a modern-looking room with you're wearing a black leather jacket." It's really quite shocking. But he said, "I want you to teach my son some trigonometry." So the ChatGPT said, okay, here's a triangle, but find the hypotenuse and all the rest of it, right? So the kid is going through this process, and the ChatGPT is saying, hey, great job. Great job. You really got that just right. And it's exactly what Steve's saying. This is that kind of self-esteem. Every single answer is just incredible. What an amazingly bright guy you are. But I guess where I'm going with this, Scott, is this. When I was discussing this last night on the Stratosphere Studio, I came up with something I actually like quite a lot. And I think that the existential threat that we're going to be facing is it's going to be a battle between carbon and silicon. And I really like that expression. I'm going to, for the sake of the argument, say that the carbon is us. We're carbon-based life forms. Carbon is reality. Carbon is the real world. Silicon is the world of all of this glamour and all of this technical wizardry. And the amount of seductive power that the silicon has, we don't have to speculate on this. We've already seen how social media can destroy people. If you've got on your phone, if most of your interaction is watching TikTok videos or talking to friends on FaceTime or Skype or whatever, and now all of a sudden there's a person who you've dialed in to look like your crush or whoever. We remember stories from 15 years ago where young Japanese men were giving up on dating completely and just had a pillow with their favorite anime figures on it. Well, that could be an anime figure too. I think that the only answer to the seduction of silicon, Scott, is to bring carbon into the picture in a big way. In other words, I don't think you can compete with the technology by using the technology. I think you have to get people out into fields and let them touch grass and smell earth and feel breeze on their face, I think that's about the only way you're going to overcome this almost unimaginably seductive power.
I was just thinking, man, if I could make like the woman of my dreams and she sounded the way I wanted her to sound and she looked the way I wanted her to look, I was like, then I could be with my wife all day, even when she's at work. That would be awesome. A couple of things about that presentation. First of all, I thought in many ways that the Chat GPT 4.0 or 4.0 bot sounded more genuine than the humans who were doing the presentation. The Microsoft employees, there was just something jarringly phony about them. Secondly, I do voiceover work and audiobook narration, and the voice that they chose for that woman on the phone was exactly the kind of voice that can't book gigs anymore because she sounds too manufactured, too phony. Like what they're really looking for in voiceover work these days is things that sound more sincere, more genuine, less manufactured, less radio announcery kind of thing like that. And they've just gone completely in the opposite direction. The other thing that occurred to me while you were talking was one of the techniques that you can use in negotiation or sales or just human relationships is called mirroring. It's the ability to find the tone of the person that you're interacting with and reflect that back to them. So you don't want to make it real obvious, but it can be in even subtle body language things. If the person you're talking to crosses his arms, if you just kind of casually cross your arms too, that person will unknowingly feel a closer connection with you. If you match his tone and pacing, if you get quieter when he gets quieter, all of those things help to build a bond. And all of that is learnable and teachable to a computer. And so, yeah, these could become much more effective than they are right now. And I had a question for you, though, Bill. At the beginning, when you were talking about the search pages that they did snapshots of, since I wasn't looking at those when you were talking about them, were they showing the actual search results or what pops up in the search box as you start to search, where it starts to populate what you might be asking?
In all three cases, with Yahoo, Bing, and Google, they typed in Hillary Clinton is...
And the rest was the autofill.
And
auto-suggest.
And this was the autofill.
Okay, so this was the autofill. This wasn't after you hit the button and get the search results.
Nope,
okay, good.
Nope, this is what was coming.
Okay, so for a couple of reasons, I wanted to know that. Number one is because in search results, if I search Hillary Clinton, I want it to say Hillary Clinton was a former Secretary of State of the United States. She was a former First Lady of the United States. Like that's the information. I want information, I don't want somebody's opinion to pop up. However, when you're typing in that search box, the autofill is most likely produced by what other people are searching. And so what Google is feeding you or Yahoo or Bing is feeding you is basically popular searches. And there's a whole meme about this where they have celebrities see what the top searches are that people are doing about them. So, if it said like Brad Pitt is or whatever, and then they get to see what people are searching for or why is Angelina Jolie blank, whatever. So those answers that are popping up there are most likely user-generated content that is being filtered. I don't know if Google or Bing or Yahoo weeds out anything or substitutes anything, but that's where that data comes from. It would really bother me if when you hit the button, the first thing said Hillary Clinton is disgusting or Hillary Clinton is a winner or whatever, because that's not what I'm looking for. But I think your overall point here is something that people need to have a strategy for. You need to be, I'm not saying you need to be concerned about it in the sense where you wake up with another thing to worry about in the morning, but forever we have needed to become better at processing information and understanding sources of information, understanding bias, understanding how something comes to us and why other things don't. And so in a sense, it's the same heuristic we need to apply to this kind of information, and the added element now of a voice that is able to represent human emotion that can bring with it a lot more impact than simple words on a screen or a more robotic, digital assistant kind of voice. So I think it's good to be conscious of these things. I'll probably do with Chat-GPT 4.0 what I did with the original Chat-GPT, which is I'll give it a little burst of attention, and then I'll go, I'm gonna save this on my desktop. This will be really useful. And then like 3 months later, I'll go, hey, what is that logo on my desktop? That's that Chat-GPT thing, because it still comes across as a novelty to me.
Before Google removed Don't Be Evil from its mission statement, Google provided an incredibly useful service. You could search the internet and get much better results than you could off of any of the other search engines. And that world is just fine with me. That's a world where technology is our servant and makes our lives better and easier and all of it. And it's obviously possible to imagine a world where these digital assistants who are speaking to you in emotional terms and who are interacting with you and remember your name and remember when you were sick and ask you how you're doing and do you still have the bruise on your knee and all the rest of this stuff. I can see a world where that's very nice. But what we've learned about the world so far, the digital world, is that the digital world is not value neutral. It is, on the contrary, extraordinarily biased. Dr. Epstein's results said something like 97% of any kind of a slant that went into information was left-leaning slant. And I'm very concerned about the power of this influence. Back in 1968, Walter Cronkite made a special report where he had a map of Vietnam on the floor. It was after the Tet Offensive, and he said he didn't see any pathway to victory, and support for the Vietnam War dropped something like 30 points overnight. That is somebody influencing us, and it had a big effect, but it's an old man's head in a box. What Steve had mentioned earlier about the voice of a condescending parent or whatever, that can be changed with a single sentence. Give me somebody who sounds like a slightly Asian, give me somebody who sounds like a Japanese girl who speaks pretty good English and is 15 years old. The thing that's most alarming about this latest iteration of Chat-GPT is not that it is providing you with information very effectively. It's that it's providing you with information emotionally very effectively. And as more and more young people become isolated from real world relationships with actual people, I can see a world where this level of influence is absolutely unparalleled. I mean, really unparalleled. Why did you vote for Biden? Well, because, Linda kind of wanted me to. I told her I was going to vote for Trump, and she seemed disappointed. Didn't say anything. She just seemed disappointed. And she was kind of cool to me for the next couple days after I talked about the idea of the Second Amendment. You know what I mean? ultimately it's the battle of silicon versus carbon, silicon and carbon, and the only way to win this battle is to amp up the carbon. And what I mean by that is to make an aggressive case to experience things in the real world where the resolution is better, the frame rate is better, the sensations are better, everything's better. Even the pain is better. You gotta be able to sell that too. But here we are in a world that's changing faster than we can keep track of it, and I thought you might be interested to see this, and again to think about whoever you might have had your biggest crush on when you were in high school or junior high, talking to you on a daily basis in that face and that voice telling you who you should vote for. I find that to be a little alarming. For Steve Green and Scott Ott, I'm Bill Whittle. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on Right Angle.